Hello, everybody. Welcome to the week 7 video lecture for academic writing. All right, week 7 is an important week because it is the last week before the midterm. And in this video, hopefully I'd like to tie together all of the skills and concepts we've been talking about so far. And I want to talk about organization. All right, so I hope you have downloaded all the notes. For this week, you should have the directions as well as a short explanation on organization and essay outlines. Then I've given you a sample essay to read. It's relatively short, but hopefully helpful. Then you'll have an essay outline here to do as part of your exercise. And then, of course, the last page will be kind of answers to this outline, right? This will fill in this sheet, okay, based on hopefully something similar to what you have written. So I hope you have all of those notes with you. They will help you to better understand this video lecture. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I want to try and put everything together. Okay, writing is such a difficult, scary monster with many moving parts to consider here. We want to try to organize our thinking here. And in this video, we want to really put everything together. So what we've considered so far about using appropriate language, academic language, developing strong theses, structuring an essay into different sections that function well, the use of or understanding the concepts of writing, unity, development, coherence, the use of cohesion, all of these things you can see demonstrated in the sample essay we'll look at today. But in this video, I would like us to try and organize our thinking, and we're going to think about organization in general. But I want to consider it in two ways. Okay, the first way, organization, is an important step in the writing process. All right, as I mentioned, after the midterm, we are going to begin writing a longer term essay, of which I've repeatedly asked you to think about a topic and perhaps do some reading or research to try and make yourself as much of an expert on that topic and find the many different perspectives and as much good information as you can before we start writing it. All right. And this is really step one in the writing process. Okay, so let me outline the writing process for you if you don't already know. Right? Step one is brainstorm a topic. And in doing so, it's always good to think about a possible thesis, as strong and as direct and as clear as you can at the beginning. And throughout the writing process, we do want to maintain some idea of a thesis, and hopefully it's getting stronger and clearer. All right, or maybe you're lucky and you have a wonderful thesis to begin with. That would be great. All right, but step one, choose a topic, have some sort of working thesis, and do what I've been asking you to do. Read, research, generate, brainstorm as much good information and as many good ideas as you can. All right, this is pre-writing, step one. Generate information, become an expert on your topic, read and research. Step two is also pre-writing, before writing, and that would be organization. And that's part of what I want to talk about today and part of the exercise I want to practice today. All right. So if step one is to gather as much good information or generate as much good information, step two is to organize that information, see how it connects, how it tells the story, how it comes together and explains your topic and develops your thesis. Okay, that is something you should do before you ever do any writing. Think about how to organize it in the most coherent way. All right. Of course, the next step in the writing process is to sit down and write a rough draft. After you write the rough draft, then you want to start to edit it, and we'll do that in this class. We'll do some peer editing as well as self-editing, and then the final step in that edit or in the writing process is to submit your final draft, which would be to hand in your final copy, your most polished copy. That will come much later in this semester for our first essay, the term essay. I believe that is due in about week 14 or 15. Okay? So that is a long way away. We're going to follow a writing process for our term essay. And right now, we're in step one, generating and brainstorming. And then after the midterm, we'll be moving on to kind of step one, step two. All right, we're going to make that step around week 9. So what I'm talking about today, organization, and a little more specifically, essay outlines, okay, is pre-writing for an essay. So what I talk about today should be helpful for that reason. But also, when I talk about organization today, just as a concept to make you a better writer, is to consider organization as it applies to your writing. How do you organize your ideas in your writing to have the best results, to be most coherent, and to express yourself and your ideas in the best way possible? All right, so let's talk about organization and specifically about essay outlines here to try and improve not only how well we write essays in a process, but also how well we can understand how to organize our ideas. All right, so this week I said we have a sample essay to look at. I want you to read the notes, watch this video. Then I want you to read that sample essay a few times and really try to bring everything together. All right, and hopefully you'll have a well-organized mind and you can perform well on the midterm. All right, so as I mentioned, if you want to look at your notes here, let's talk a little bit about organization and the writing process. So after brainstorming and researching, like I said, step 2 is to organize everything you've gathered or generated and think clearly about how to organize that information. Look for connections, okay? But also, as I said, to help in your organization, you should have some kind of thesis, some kind of working thesis, preferably a really strong, clear assertion, but you should have any kind of idea, some kind of idea. The better it is, the more it will help you. But remember, whatever your thesis is, it could change throughout the writing process. But having some sort of idea to give you direction in your writing, to organize your writing around, is going to be very helpful. All right, because we're going to take that thesis or working thesis and we're going to look at all the wonderful, beautiful, interesting ideas and data and information that we've gathered or generated, and through the lens of our thesis. We're going to figure out where those connections are in our ideas, how can they best be presented to the audience, and that will really help us think about being successful as a writer. So a careful writer is going to think about all that information you have and how to consider it. All right. First, if you think about coherence, think about the logic. How do these ideas connect? All right. And then think about the language. How do you want to express them too? Can you think of categories which really capture the different ideas? Does that help you to organize your information into something that is more understandable and easily presented to your audience? Okay, categories of information. All right, now from there too, we also need to think about if we're writing this essay, how are we going to present the body? Right? We know what the introduction is going to do. It's going to present our topic and any necessary information or context, and then it's going to narrow that to a more specific, stronger thesis. And hopefully in our thesis statement, we're going to introduce the main points of the body in the order that they appear as well. But then when we get to the body, we're going to have body 1, body 2, body 3. And each of those body sections are going to have smaller supporting details which support the main idea of the body, which support the thesis, right? So again, think about the structure we've discussed before in this class, all right? I think when we talked about the structure of the essay, I discussed this a little bit. So what we're doing is trying to create some sort of logical hierarchy. And in organization, that logical hierarchy is going to be important. So how do we create logical hierarchy? We need to consider the connections between the different ideas, which ideas are more important, less important, and then which are just, kind of supporting details. And then we also, at the same time, need to consider the language which creates categories and reflects the connection between ideas, okay, in agreement with our thesis. All right, so when you're looking to organize that body section, as I mentioned earlier, think about the best way to present that information. You can do it with chronological order, right, which means time order, past, present, future, right, or first, second, finally. But that's not always available for the topic and the information that we're discussing, especially if it's more abstract kind of field of knowledge. So we then also need to consider other ways to organize the body section of our essays, right? Or what it is we want to write and put forward. So again, I mentioned this earlier, but you want to think about the strength of those supporting ideas in the body section. All right, which one is the most convincing? Which one is the least convincing, but still convincing? And which one is in the middle? All right, and as I mentioned to you before, I recommend for your body section, if you have 3 main points, start with your second most convincing idea, and then your least convincing idea, and then end your body with the most convincing idea, because people love a good, powerful ending. It will be more memorable in the mind of the reader and have a greater effect at convincing him or her. All right. Now, keep in mind, there are almost infinite ways to structure your body and organize your ideas in your essay. However, the key thing to remember is the best way to organize your essay is the way that best supports your thesis. Because remember, the thesis is the main idea of the essay. It is your overall main idea. So any decisions you make on organization or any other decisions you make on the essay should all be designed to best support and develop your thesis. Okay, so going back to the writing process, when it comes to taking all the information you've gathered, the next step is to organize it. All of this is before you write your essay. And here I'd like to talk about an essay outline. Okay, that's kind of the last step of pre-writing, the last step before you actually start writing your essay. Okay, it's just preparation. So an essay outline, if you don't know, if you've never done one before, it is a graphic organizer that should typically fit one page and sketch out the basic structure and logic of an essay. All right, so again, here is a sample of a fairly kind of in-between rough essay outline. Essay outlines can be very rough, right? Very kind of just done like a quick note, or they can be very formal as well. This one is a little bit closer to formal, but it's not the most formal. But remember what it is. It's just a graphic organizer, a way of showing to the eye how simply an essay is going to work. All right, or your writing is going to work. It's kind of like a skeleton. If you look at the body of a person and you see the skeleton, you can kind of see the strength, the bones of the body. So it doesn't have the same detail as, this wonderful hair or these beautiful eyes, but it has the basic structure of the essay. So up at the top of the graphic organizer, because the top is the most important area, you're going to have your thesis statement written in here. All right, and then below that, if you're doing a kind of a 5-paragraph essay or a 3 main body points, again, that's not a rule, but I've just kept it here in this form to give you a rough idea. All right, so you can have main point. So if you have a 5-paragraph essay, remember you have introduction, body, 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 conclusion. So these sections here are body, body, body. So what is the main point of your first body paragraph or body section? Okay, and remember, this main point supports the thesis. All right, but in your body section, of course, hopefully you have wonderful statistics, data, quotes, anything to develop this main point. All right, they should be here in point form or very brief or short, concise sentences. So these 3 ideas, it doesn't have to be 3, it can be 2, it can be 4, depends on what information you have. But this supports this, and this supports the thesis statement. So you can see everything is working up to support one thing to the next thing to the next thing. All right. So in terms of specific and general, we're also going to be working down. So more general, more specific, even more specific. But everything here supports this, and this supports this. All right. And then if we move on here, we say main point number 2, and then we have the same idea. Supporting details, which support the second main point of your body, which again supports the thesis. And down here, again, if you want to follow kind of a 5-paragraph essay style, you have your supporting details, which support this point, which of course also supports your thesis. All right. So in terms of general, we have maybe most general, general, more specific, but general, 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 and then more specific, more specific, more specific. So this supports this, which supports this. This supports this, which supports this. This supports this, which supports this. All right, that's how it works. Keep it brief, keep it simple, but our purpose here is just to sketch, okay? Make an outline of your writing, of your essay, so that we can easily and simply see on one page how our argument and essay is going to present the information. Now, this is very helpful to us because it provides us with a plan, a map, so that when we, in our next step, begin writing the rough draft, we have a much clearer direction of where the essay is going to go, but it also keeps it defined so we don't go off into some crazy places. All right, so that helps us with the unification, the unity of the essay. All right, and it also kind of provides us with the ability to just see how everything is going if we do start developing different ideas. All right, so let me discuss kind of three important things here, just to be more specific. Three ways that these essay outlines are helpful in the writing process, and also, of course, to creating some better organization in your essays, and just understanding how essays are organized in general. Okay, so when we look at an essay outline, number one, we can easily see the logic of the thesis and the main supporting points, the argument, thesis plus the development. We can easily see that. We can easily see if or how the ideas connect clearly. We can judge that, okay? We can also kind of easily judge the language that we're using, because we hopefully have thought about, carefully the language in our thesis statement, the language for our development as well. So consider the logic for the thesis, the main supporting ideas. Consider how they connect logically. Think about how they connect verbally with the language they use. So make sure that is clear. All right, but that's not all. Number two, by looking at our essay outline, we can also look at the depth of the evidence. All right, so go back and think about development. Okay, adequate development. First, do we have enough information? And then, of course, we want to think about the quality of the information as well as the content. Is it the best or most relevant information for our topic 2? If we can see that easily presented on a page, it's easier for our mind to consider that. Okay? So that's why this is very helpful as a graphic organizer before you write your essay. And it also helps us to understand the overall organization of an essay. All right, but there's also a kind of third helpful aspect of the graphic organizer, and that is it really helps us with any gaps or overlap in information. Okay, so you have a gap where you have this, and then there's nothing in between. That's a gap in your ideas, right? But sometimes there might also be an overlap where this touches this. So what that means is you have kind of two ideas that are too similar in their content or in how you represent them. All right. So by looking at a very basic, simple graphic organizer, we can more easily look for these problems. All right. So we might have to go back to step one and get more information, do more reading, and fill in a gap in information so there's no absence or lack of information. Uh, uh, or we can try and think about better ideas that don't overlap because we don't want to repeat or we don't want to say the same thing logically in just two different ways. All right. I guess I'm repeating myself there. Sorry. Okay, so those three things, all right, just to review, are very helpful. Okay, this is a graphic organizer. Uh, it's an essay outline that helps you to better understand what you are going to write as a draft, as a real essay. All right, it helps you to clearly see the logic of your thesis and the main ideas. And it allows you to see how they connect clearly and allows you to easily kind of judge the language that you're using and how clear and specific it is in relation to your supporting ideas and developing details. Right? But it also allows you to look at the depth of the evidence, which means the quality of the information. How good is the information you have? You can easily judge that, or more easily judge that, by looking at just one page. And you can also consider how much information you have. Right? For example, if you only have 1 point, 1 point, and then 5 points, that's kind of a problem. All right. That's also a problem of scope. All right. So scope also is, just what are the limitations, the boundaries of everything you want to talk about in terms of ideas. Make sure you look for that in the depth of evidence. And of course, point 3, look for any gaps or overlaps in the ideas you're using to develop your thesis. Right? Make sure that there's nothing that the audience is missing to understand your argument, and make sure your argument is definitively clear and separate. You're not just repeating the same ideas with different language. All right, and that is surprisingly easy to do. I've done it many times myself. All right, so again, the purpose in creating an essay outline is that a writer can better and more easily understand his or her essay before he or she begins writing the rough draft. It creates a kind of roadmap or just provides a plan for a writer to judge the brainstorming that he or she has done and then follow through clearly to the drafting stage where you have a much clearer direction to follow when you are sitting down in the most frustrating time when you actually have to do the writing. All right, so this is what I want you to think about when you're thinking about organizing. Okay, not only as a step in a writing process, but also in better understanding how essays are organized. So what we're going to do as an exercise this week is to read this relatively short 5-paragraph academic essay. All right, you can see it here. It's just a sample essay. It's fairly well written, but you can judge that on your own. It answers the question, discuss why assignment essays are common assessment tasks in undergraduate, tertiary coursework, and evaluate the effectiveness of assignments as an avenue for learning. All right. This was written with a word limit of 500 words, and it uses APA referencing, right? If that's important to you, if you want to know. But I want you just to take this last exercise before the midterm, and as I said, reconsider everything we studied so far. The use of language, the definition and structure of an essay, what a good, strong thesis is. Think about how we use important elements of writing like unity, coherence, and development, and to a lesser degree, topic sentences in the paragraphs to organize and develop and make our writing just better and more understandable. But also think about the use of transitions. Think about the use of appeals, all right? And again, in academic essays, we're going to rely more heavily on logos appeals or logical appeals, but all of the appeals are helpful in presenting our argument. All right, so read it for all of those reasons as a review, but also, of course, read it to accomplish the exercise I want you to do today, because this lesson is focused on helping you to better understand how writing is organized, as well as how to use an essay outline in the writing process. We can have those two aspects to consider today. So read through the essay a couple times, start to understand it, and then the exercise that I want you to do, all right, and this is actually reverse engineering. If anybody's an engineer here, I'm sure they understand that means, right? As I said, in the writing process, an essay outline is usually step 2, right? Gather, generate information, do reading and research, and then organize it into an essay outline, and then write an essay. We're going to use this as a tool to go backwards. The essay has already been written, but we, as a thinking exercise, want to work backwards. We want to reverse engineer the sample essay, and I want you to read through that essay and understand its structure. What is its thesis? What are its supporting ideas? And what is the data, information, the supporting ideas that support those main ideas which support the thesis? Okay? That's what I want you to look at. So read this essay, and then what I want you to do with this essay outline is just make an essay outline that would explain this sample essay. Again, we're working backwards. So here in the thesis, read the essay, see if you can find the thesis statement. You can, change it a little bit or write it point form or in a very brief or concise sentence here. That's fine. Next, look through the 3 body paragraphs and then figure out what is the main idea of each body paragraph, and then figure out what are the supporting details of each body paragraph. All right. Now, you might not have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in the supporting details. All right. That's just included because this is a general presentation of an essay outline. But overall, read this essay, do your best to understand the argument, which is the thesis and the supporting ideas and how they are developed, and then fill out this essay outline in a way that represents the basic structure and argument of this essay. Okay? So I think that'll be a very helpful exercise for you in helping you to understand just how essays are organized in general as a writing concept, but it'll also help you to to better understand the writing process, because in week 9, after the midterm, you will be asked to, for the term essay, create your own essay outline and present it to me so that we'll begin the writing process for that term essay. All right. So as I said, the term essay will take a long time to write. Step 1, I hope you've been doing already with reading and researching, thinking about a topic, thinking about a possible thesis. And then in week 9, we're going to move kind of from step 1 to step 2, which is organization, and then the essay outline. And then from there, we'll move through the writing process as well. All right. But again, this is the last class before the midterm. This lecture and this exercise can really be used to help you not only understand organization, but to review everything that we've learned so far. And just like all the exercises that we did week 1, week 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the kind of questions or exercises I asked of you, those are going to be similar to the questions that you will see on the midterm. All right, and remember, the midterm is going to be asking you to demonstrate your understanding of everything we talked about in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this week as well. So I hope things are starting to come together for you before we move on to some actual academic writing in the second half of this semester. All right, so you do not need to submit this as with all the other exercises we've done, but I do think it's a valuable exercise for you. And as I mentioned earlier, you can check your answers on the last page of these notes where I have filled in the essay outline, and you can compare it to the one that you will prepare in the exercise here. All right, so when you finish with this week's exercise, you can compare it to the one that I have included in these notes. All right, that is it for this video. I hope you find this topic and lecture helpful, especially the exercise. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns moving forward, feel free to get me in the chat room in Kakao, or as always, email me as well. All right, take care, everybody. I hope you're all well. I'll hopefully see some of you or not later.